The latest data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics confirms it. The average property price in Australia has just hit $1 million. And I know what a lot of people are thinking. Surely prices can't keep rising, right? After all, they're already so unaffordable for so many people. Surely that means prices need to fall, right? Look, I get why people feel that way. When I first started my investing journey back 23 years ago, I thought the same way as well. I used to think that just because property prices were considered expensive, that meant that it was not a good time to buy and I should actually wait until prices fell before jumping into the market. All I can say is that was one of my biggest mistakes. Look, after investing now for, like I said, 23 years through times of economic uncertainty, interest rate movements, and anything else that you can think of, I've learnt one fundamental truth. The property market rarely moves the way most people think. That's why in today's episode, I want to show you the truth behind what's actually happening to the property market, why so many people will get caught on the wrong side of this, and how to position yourself for what's coming next. Look, it's easy to assume that when the average property price in Australia is now $1 million, well, prices can't rise that much more. I mean, after all, if we look at affordability, affordability is at record lows, or translation, unaffordability is at record highs according to the data. Many people think that just because property prices are rising much faster than wage increases, that means that prices can't keep rising and a crash has to happen. I've heard these sorts of opinions multiple times throughout my last 23 years of investing experience. And here's what I can tell you. They are dead wrong. Because what most people don't realize is that price tags alone don't cause property markets to crash. And that's because what often feels expensive today looks cheap just a few years later. I remember when the median property price in Sydney reached $1 million and everyone said, oh, that's so expensive, prices need to crash. Today, finding a good quality property in Sydney for $1 million, especially a freestanding house, that would seem like an absolute bargain. I remember in Brisbane when property prices reached $500,000 and people said, oh, that's expensive for Brisbane. Today, you'll struggle to find a good quality property in Brisbane for under $700,000, let alone $500,000. And look, I could rattle off example after example of where this has happened. But, and this is a lesson I learned the hard way over my last 23 years of investing experience, and it's something many people still get wrong to this day, it's that high prices don't make property prices fall. What makes property prices fall? It's oversupply. It's roaring high unemployment. It's sudden sharp spikes in interest rates. And what do we have today? Well, we actually have the complete opposite. Interest rates are falling. Unemployment is holding steady at 4.1%. And we have a massive supply shortage when it comes to properties in this country. Not enough properties for the number of people who need them. If we look at the latest data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, we can see here that dwelling approvals is falling. In fact, the latest data shows that we only built 14,633 properties, and this was at the end of April. Now remember, the government has a target of building 1.2 million homes in 5 years, so that works out to be 240,000 homes per year, or 20,000 properties per month. We're actually getting further and further away from that target. So what does that mean? That means that the shortage of properties is likely to only get bigger over the coming years because we're not building enough homes. And while migration has fallen from the record highs of the last couple of years, it's still projected to continue at nearly 3 or 4 times the long-term average in Australia. That means we still have more and more people coming into this country, yet not enough properties. That means that our population will continue to grow at a time while we're not building enough properties for the number of people who need them already. This only means that the demand versus supply gap, demand, number of people who want and need properties versus supply, the number of properties, that gap's only going to get bigger and bigger. Now, also consider this. Interest rates are set to fall, We've already had a couple of rate cuts this year as I record this, but there are multiple rate cuts expected both in 2025 and 2026. Every major lender seems to have a slightly different opinion on how many rate cuts we'll have, but the key consensus is that there will be multiple rate cuts. Now, when we have rate cuts, what does that mean? It means that people have more borrowing power. So there are people right now who maybe want to buy a property, maybe it's their first home, maybe they want to upgrade their home, maybe they want to buy an investment property, but they can't just yet. But when interest rates fall, their borrowing capacity will increase and they may be able to afford a property that they can't right now. That's going to only increase the number of buyers coming into the market. Then consider what the federal government is looking to do from the start of next year. First home buyer incentives. Many first home buyers will be able to buy a property for just a 5% deposit with no loan mortgage insurance. Plus many of the state governments are giving all sort of stamp duty concessions for first home buyers. There's going to be an influx of new demand coming onto the market. Now, do you remember when the last time was that we saw all these factors combining at once? It was back in 2021, just after the pandemic. There was lots of first home buyer initiatives, stamp duty concessions, interest rates were being cut. And what happened? Prices rose over 20% in multiple locations around the country. But here's the thing, many people were asleep at the wheel back then, and you can't blame them because after all, we were just coming out of a pandemic, people were still recovering, most people didn't have any notion of what was likely to happen to the property market. But today, that's not the case. Auction clearance rates are going through the roof at a time when there are actually more auctions on the market. So that means there are more sellers looking to sell their property, and yet we still have an excess of buyers, which is driving property prices up. When you look at open homes, there are big queues out the door. More and more people are looking to get into the property market. Properties are selling faster and faster in multiple areas around the country. So there is clearly an overall awareness that prices are likely to rise, and more people are looking to try and buy as fast as they possibly can so they don't miss out, on prices rising. Because the fact is, prices are going to rise. No matter how expensive they might already be, there is a lot more upside to the property market driven by demand being higher than supply. However, that does not mean that you can just go and buy blindly. You still need to do your due diligence because certain markets are performing very well. Other markets, they're not doing so well. And we saw this back in 2021. Some areas took off. Other areas, well, they really haven't started rising till maybe now, 2025. And the last thing you want to do is buy a property and then have it stay flat or worse, fall in value after you buy. So if you want help to work out, well, how do you determine the best areas to buy an investment property? Check out the link in the description below to get totally for free the audio version and digital version of my book. It's a full property investing roadmap based on my now 23 years of investing experience that will show you what the key criteria are that you need to focus on to make sure that if you're looking to buy an investment property, you make the best decision possible. But otherwise, if you're still not convinced that you should be looking to buy another investment property, maybe you're someone who already has a mortgage, and with the falling interest rates, you want to take that extra money that you're hopefully saving each month and put that towards your mortgage to pay down your debt more quickly, then check out this next video where I walk you through the pros and cons of paying your mortgage off faster or buying an investment property earlier.